Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are back in Osaka. As you might be able to tell from the background, I'm over here visiting my son again, and actually my mum and dad came over to visit this time too, which has been really nice. So we've been travelling around Osaka a little bit, exploring other places in Japan, and it's been really nice for them to kind of bond with their grandson, because this is the first time they've seen him since he was born actually. So yeah, they've been having a great time. But as I always do when I'm here in Osaka, I stay up a little bit later and I film a few nice Japanese beers for you here on the channel as well. It's actually the first time I'm sitting down and filming a review in a good few weeks actually, maybe about 6 or 7 weeks. And the main reason for that has been that I got my Asus Zenfone repaired, which I'm now filming on again. So yeah, really excited about that. I've got some nice beers waiting for you back in Hong Kong. And I've also got some really nice ones to review while I'm here in Japan. So we're going to test out the camera, see if it's working with a beer that I can replace for this first video. So fingers crossed nothing goes wrong. But as always, I hope you guys enjoy this video. A little quick update for you there. But yeah, for this review then, since we are back in Osaka, I thought we would do an Osaka beer. So we're going to head a little bit to the north of the main part of the city to Minoh, about 15 kilometers north, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Minoh Beer. So this particular beer is the Minoh Pilsner. It comes in at 5% ABV, and I think from the name of this one, you know what style this is. Now, I think I have tried this beer a couple of times over the years, but I've never actually done a proper sit-down review of it, and it seemed like it's one that I should do because it's a very popular beer, and it's also a style that I've gotten really into again over the last couple of years, and lagers are getting more and more popular, as I think they should be, to be honest with you. So trying one of my local lagers from here in Osaka is quite a nice video to do. It's quite a nice place to kick off again with my my now re-functioning Zenfone. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. A 5% Pilsner from AGI Beer Company, or AGI Beer Incorporated, if I remember the name of the parent company properly, who sell their beers under the name Minoh Beer. So yeah, let's crack on with this and see what it has in store for us. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Minoh Beer before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things, and we will be adding to that quite regularly over the next wee while. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Let's go on to my brewery notes and I'll tell you a wee bit about Minoh Beer once again then. So, Minoh Beer, as I've mentioned to you already, are from Minoh to the north of Osaka here in the Kansai region of Japan, and Minoh is about 15 kilometers away from the center of the city. But this area of Osaka is famous for the Meiji no Mori Minoh Quasi-National Park, which is one of the oldest in Japan, and also for the Katsuoji Buddhist Temple, which is over 1200 years old. But the monkey symbol that you'll often see on the Minoh beers is used by the brewery as a reference to the Osaru monkey population in the national park, and you can see them dancing about. They like to go in the hot springs and stuff up there, so it's quite funny to see. But to go to the brewery itself, the Minoh Brewery was established back in 1996, and it's owned by the Oshita family, who had run an alcohol shop for about 30 years prior to opening the brewery. But apparently the family went for dinner together one night, and on the way home, Papa Oshita Masaji, he took them to see a building and pointed to it and said that they would be brewing beer in there soon. And it turns out that he had bought a brew kit from New Zealand and rented the building and had plans for a brewery. So the brewery apparently had an uphill struggle in the beginning, because many of the little Jibiru local beer breweries that had opened up with the change of the laws in the early 90s were going bust, and public opinion really wasn't great when it came to craft beer. The import beers that they were getting were actually more consistent in terms of quality and cheaper than the things that were being produced in Japan. But Minoh have been one of the kind of success stories out of that era. They've gone on to become one of the most decorated craft breweries in the country. But in 2012, sadly, Masaji Yoshita passed away, and the brewery is now run by the family's 3 daughters. So Kaori had been appointed by her father to be the brewer. She trained initially at a brewery in Kobe before going to the National Research Institute of Brewing, RNIB, in East Hiroshima. And Kaori said that she's actually, she learned pretty much on the job and was constantly tweaking her recipes. And she also credits Nakanishi of Isakadaya as having been a great mentor to her as well. But in 2000, Mayuko joined the company, having freshly graduated, and she helped her sister with the kind of bottling and labelling side of things. And the third sister, Nozomi, joined the company in 2010, and she manages the office side of the brewery. So she's taking care of a lot of things behind the scenes. But in 2015, they invested in a new bottling machine, and they opened the Minoh Beer warehouse and also run the Beer Belly pubs in Osaka these days as well. There's one in Tenma and there's one somewhere else as well. I forget exactly where that is. I think it's quite close to Umeda, if I'm not mistaken. But they are still quite small, however, and they're producing in the region of 450,000 litres of beer per year. But you can get the Minoh beers quite readily in a number of supermarkets across the Osaka and Kansai region. So they're definitely worth having a go of if you get the chance. But as of February 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 260 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. They've got a core range as well as different kind of experimental beers that they do, and we've had some really, really interesting ones from the experimental series over the years. But probably the 2 beers that you really need to try from these guys would be the WIPA, the White IPA, which is one I always enjoy having that on tap if I get the chance, and they've also got the Imperial Stout as well. But that said, I haven't seen that one in quite some time actually, so yeah, hopefully I can have a look at that again at some stage. But I do have 2 special beers to look at from these guys, so keep your eyes peeled for those videos over the next little while. But yeah, that's everything I can really tell you about Minoh Beer. The only other thing to add would be that the parent company is called AGI Beer Incorporated. That's what you'll find them listed under on Untappd, and that's quite common in Japan, that there's a parent company and then the beer brand is different from the parent company's name. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I think it's just business law in Japan, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's everything about that. If you want to learn more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one then. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There you can see the artwork on this is very similar to what you'll see on some of the you've seen on some of the other beers we've done from Minoh Beer previously. The WIPA and the Imperial Stout, I think, are the 2 that have had this label. But usually when I come to Osaka, I'm looking for the more unusual beers from this brewery. So maybe you haven't seen this too often on the channel. But yeah, there you can see the Minoh Beer symbol, and you'll also see this one here, the monkey. Let the camera just focus on that. There you go. This is the Osaru monkey population. So we've got quite a few different IPAs named after these guys. Osaru, Bossaru, Bassaru, I think, as well, the black IPA. But yeah, 5% ABV, this one. Pilsner style lager. So for those of you who don't know, the definition of a lager is that it's a beer that's fermented using cold temperature fermentation, bottom fermenting yeast. So there are many different kinds of lagers. But the Pilsner as a style originates from the city of Pilsen in the Czech Republic. It was brewed originally by a German brewer, and then the original Pilsner was Pilsner Urquell, or original source, yeah. So that's also known in Czech as Plzeňský Prazdroj, and yeah, they often tend to use, the Pilsner tends to have 30 IBUs, it's a little bit more hoppy and bitter, and they use the Sats or Zatic hops from the local region in Bohemia. But yeah, the only other thing I would add is that Czech Pilsners tend to be a little bit more kind of yeasty, if you like, and a little bit a little bit more floral, whereas the German Pilsners tend to be very, very crisp and very dry, because this style did, of course, make its way back over to Germany. But yeah, Czech style of beer, this one. That region of Czech Republic was lived on by ethnic Germans and ethnic Czechs. Czech, of course, used to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But yeah, 5% Pilsner, this one. Let's get it out into the glass and see what we have. Oh, nice little bit of smoke on the opening there. And we'll get this guy out and into my nice Minoh Beer glass. There we are. Of course, one thing I would say about this particular beer style is that it would be better to sell it in a 500 milliliter bottle or a 440 milliliter can, something like this. But you know, these guys are quite a small brewery, so I can kind of understand why they do it in the 330s. And to be honest as well, quite often when you go to the pubs in Japan, 300 milliliters is quite a common measurement of beer. So it does sort of make sense that they still use this with the bottles, although some breweries are changing that these days. But yeah, you can see that this beer is poured pretty much as you would expect from the style. So before the head disappears, we can see that it's come out with a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That is just fading away to be a thinner, more foamy layer now, but you've got nice kind of stuff around the edge of the glass. There's some bigger bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid, a few foamier ones as you go further up, but you can see lovely pale golden straw colour there. And remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to Pilsners or many other types of lagers, to be honest with you. But yeah, not much in the way of visible carbonation, just one or two big bubbles there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and you can see one or two little bits of particulate matter in this one. Maybe I've had the fridge a little bit cold, actually. But yeah, it certainly looks as you would expect for a Pilsner. Nothing untoward about the beer when you consider what style it is. So I think we don't need to say any more about the appearance. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and just see, pardon me, what we get with this one. As you can probably tell, my throat's a little bit sore in this video. I think it's just the dry air from the air conditioners over here in Japan. It happens quite often. Yeah, need to wet my throat a little bit, but we'll do the aroma first. So again, aroma with this one is really nice and pretty much what you would expect. When I compare this to other versions of the Pilsner that I've had before, I would say that it's, yeah, I would say when I compare this one to other Pilsners, I'd say that this one comes across as being a little bit sweeter, maybe. It's got a little bit more sweetness in its malt base. It's got that big kind of spicy floral aromaticity that you expect of the Czech Žatec hops, as opposed to the German Hallertau and Tecknaggers, which are a little bit brighter, actually, a little bit wetter in their floral and grassy characteristics. But yeah, it smells really, really nice, actually. So let's just kind of break it down properly and describe that aroma for you a wee bit more in depth. Yeah. So, for me, this one, the backbone of the beer, you absolutely get some of that nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this. The fresh white bready bread crust is lovely. I mean, that has a little bit, it has a little touch of like woodiness to it as well. A little bit of Jacob's cream cracker. But of course you're getting that crisp Pilsner malt note, pardon me, in the top of the mouth, in the top of the nose, which is great. It's going to stay in the top of the mouth there. But yeah, the malty side of this beer really is, really comes across very nice. So yeah, fresh like bakery hedgehog, fresh bread crust in there, little bit of cracker, little bit of wood, lovely kind of very dry, crisp Pilsner malty character coming out of this one. And then yeah, of course you've got some fluffy white bread in there, which you expect from the style. On top of that, a little bit of, yeah, Little bit of kind of sweetness as well. There's a wee bit of that kind of oily, biscuity sweetness that you get. I often say McVitie's digestive biscuit. That's definitely quite apparent in this one, which I do really like. So yeah, McVitie's digestive biscuit. A little bit of kind of crisp caramel in there, which is great. Yeah, crisp caramel, McVitie's digestive biscuit. And yeah, I think a really nice little bit of, you've got, yeah, you just have a little bit of that. Yeah, there is just a wee bit of a kind of booziness to it as well, actually, which is quite interesting. Yeah, you can definitely smell just a little bit of the alcohol coming out of this beer too. But yeah, malty-wise, I think there's not much else to say, to be honest with you. Let's go to the hoppy side of things. So, yeah, for me, I think the light's stopping the camera from focusing a little bit here. But yeah, for me, the malty side of things, the hoppy side of things, sorry, and this one is what you'd expect. You get that nice little touch of earthiness out of the beer. You get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity out of it as well, which is great. You can smell that really spicy, floral, Czech aromatic note coming out of the beer, which I think is lovely. And then you've got that brighter kind of grassiness at the front of the nose too, which is great, like fresh, wet, freshly cut grass. Pardon me. Yeah. So for me, the floral characters are really what you would expect of these, you know, spicy Czech Sats hops. On the fruity side of things for this beer, and the Pilsner is of course not the most fruity style of lager or beer, generally speaking, but it's kind of what you'd expect. You get a little touch of gooseberry out of it. You get a nice little bit of slight pear, fresh green apple, little touch of like sultana as well, something like that. These kind of dry, oily, fruity notes. But all in all, aroma-wise, it's pretty much what you'd expect from the style. As I always say, take a wee bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. I always think that's half the experience with craft beer. And me personally, I love the smell of these kind of lager beers. They're just, they're great, these ones. And a good Pils is always a nice thing to have. So yeah, let's crack on with this one. Let's have a look at it and see how we do, and hopefully it wets my throat a little bit and I can enjoy it. So yeah, this one is the Pilsner from Minoh Beer of AGI Beer Incorporated, and from Minoh, Osaka here in Kansai in Japan. A beer I've been meaning to review for quite some time on the channel. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Kampai. Yeah, it's pretty damn good actually. First impression, really nice, wet Pilsner. Not quite as bitter and crisp as I expected it was going to be. Actually just very light and very drinkable. And as I've said many a time with Japanese beers, what you'll often find with the craft beers is that regardless of style, they always have that element of drinkability to them. And I think that's just something that's in the Japanese beer culture, is, you know, they see beer as something light and drinkable. So even with the big heavy beast that you'll always get quite a nice, clean mouthfeel. And, you know, it could, when I think about it too, it could just be from the kind of sake and things like that. A lot of beer brewers were once upon a time sake brewers too. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, this one is a really nice kind of wet, clean and slightly oily Pilsner. So yeah, as I say, I wish they would sell this in half litres, but you could obviously just buy 2 bottles and enjoy it. So this is a beer that you really could quite easily enjoy in a stein. But yeah, it's good stuff. You take a bigger gulp of it as well, you get more of the kind of crisp bitterness and that you would expect of the style. And obviously I'm drinking this beer out of the Tulip, and the Tulip is the best all-round glass for, you know, doing tastings and things like that. It works with every style. But if you want a Pilsner like this, you do maybe want a slightly thicker rimmed kind of Stein or something like that, because then you're more inclined to gulp the beer and you'll get more of those bitter, crisp characteristics. Whereas with this, yeah, it's a little bit more oily and wet, I would say, but it gives you all the flavours you'd expect to the style. So we have to give it a thumbs up for that. Yeah. So let's kind of break this one down then and describe the flavour that wee bit more in depth, as we always do. I will say this is dangerously easy to drink. So, yeah, middle third of the palate then. The backbone of the beer is that fresh, white bready bread crust. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of woodiness underneath. And then you do get a layer of like a fresh kind of cream cracker type quality, and that dryness comes out a little bit more the further into the aftertaste that you go, and that is really, really nice. With this beer, I have to say, I do really like how all of that just pieces together in this one. So, on top of the crackery layer, you get like you get a layer of fresh white bread, and it does have a little bit of sweetness to it as well. Actually, I would be tempted to say there's a wee touch of kind of brown bread in this one as well. So the kind of crisp, fresh, white bready layer is there. Little layer of kind of brown bread as well. And then above that, you start to get the more oily sweetness out of the beer. So you can feel the next layer up. There's that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of this one. So you've got like a little circle in the middle of your palate there, and that's the kind of oily, yeah, that's the kind of oily, kind of boozy, caramelly note in there. And as you move further out toward the edges of your palate there, you get the kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type notes out of this one. And these are all things that you would expect of the style. But as you move toward the back of that middle third of your palate, you start to get the more kind of crisp Pilsner, dry crisp Pilsner type malts coming out of this one, which is really nice. So yeah, the thing that lingers in into the aftertaste with this beer is the sweetness, I would say. So I really do like how that pieces together too. Yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really, really nice. You could sit and easily drink a good couple of bottles of this beer and just really enjoy it. Yeah, there is just something special about having a nice local Pilsner to drink, and I'm quite grateful that Minoh do this. I've tried this beer a few times over the years, but it's been a good few years. I don't think I've had this since before my little boy was born, come to think of it. So yeah, that's one of the things really to think about with this one. So yeah, that's the middle third of your palate covered. On the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of that bready build up in there. There's maybe a wee bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top. Then the back third of your palate, you've got some really nice kind of dry, fresh bread crusty characters in there. Above that, you get a sort of brown bready layer, which is a little bit lighter and more airy. Then you get a white bready layer, which is again a little bit lighter and more airy. And some of the kind of really crisp, dry Pilsner malts that we're talking about, those kind of just creep over into that back third of the palate as well. And then above everything else, you have the above everything else, you have the kind of yeasty characters coming out of the beer. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, so on the on the yeasty side of things, then it's kind of what you'd expect. You get this. There's like a little dense kind of bready ball in there, so you can feel there's like a sweet sort of doughy white bready character in there. And then as you move outside of that, it's got a little bit more of this kind of crusty character, which has a wee bit of dryness to it. So definitely back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour. It is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, and it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, I think that covers the malty and yeasty side of the beer quite in depth. Let's go to the hoppy side of things then. So for me, the back corners of your palate, there's a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it just gets a little touch of a herbal character to it. And as you push further forward, as on this one, it gives you, as you push further forward, it gives you a little bit of a kind of floral, more of a, so you've got the earthiness there, a little bit of herbal character, and as you push further forward toward the front corners of your palate, it does give you a little bit of that floral spice you'd expect of the Czech Žatec hop, but it's actually quite a wet floral character that comes out of this too, which is quite interesting. But round the front curve of the palate, you definitely get a little bit of a lighter grassy sort of thing in there. So yeah, a little bit of a lighter grassy kind of note coming out of it. A little bit of wetness to it as well, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, a little bit of a, definitely a little bit of a kind of lighter grassy sort of thing going on in this one as well, which is good. And then I think that covers everything we need to say about the green component. So let's focus on the front third of your palate and the fruity side of things quickly. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. Brown bread in the base, white bread kind of sitting on top. And then the base of that front third of your palate, nice little bit of kind of fresh brown bready character in there. Sort of the bread crust again, and then brown bready character, white bready character. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So for me, the fruity side of the beer is kind of what you'd expect. So the fruity side of the beer is, I would say, it's at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit of that kind of sultana type note, the dry white green grapey notes. But then as you move further forward, you get more and more of an oily pear. Toward the middle, you get a little bit of that kind of, you get a wee touch of like fresh green apple in there, and maybe just as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, there's a wee bit of a kind of lemony limey note just mixing in with the grassy esters that you get out of the beer. So these are all things that you would expect of the Czech Žatec hops. Pear, sultana, a little bit of fresh green apple, and a wee tiny hint of lemon lime. These kind of things are quite common with this particular hop. It's good stuff actually, this one. I think it's a really nice Pilsner. As I say, my only complaint I can have about this beer is that they're selling it in 330s, but I do obviously understand the commercial reasons and cultural reasons why they do that instead of doing half-litre bottles. But really nice stuff, I have to say. Really do like this one. So let's round off with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, kind of top end of light bodied. Carbonation has a nice degree of crispness to it. It feels nice and clean, but at the same time there's a little touch of oiliness to this one, which I do enjoy as well, and you get that crisp kind of dryness and things the further into the aftertaste you go. But the beer has a very nice little bit of bitterness to it. It's about 30-ish IBUs, which is what you expect from the style. Could even be a little bit more, 35 or something, but I think about 30 IBUs, which is what you want. The malt base has a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and sweetness on top. And then you've got a really nice kind of just little bit of oily fruitiness coming out of it as well. So I do like how this how everything pieces together in this one. A lovely Pilsner this, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. A bit annoyed at myself that I've taken so long to do a review of this one, but it just felt like the right time to try this beer. So I'll be buying bottles of this a little bit more often, I have to say. So let's leave it at that for this one. This was the Pilsner from Minoh Beer, coming in at 5% ABV. Lovely beer, and very nice to have a Pilsner this good for me here in my local Japanese area. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Minoh Beer as well. We will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out Minoh Beer's social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Sláinte, skål, cheers, and kampai.